Hello. What type of coach are you? Or even if you're not a coach, what are you laughing at? Hello.
Just the way you said it. We're going to be talking about our new quiz where we're talking about all the different types, or it's like 5 types of coach.
Mm-hmm.
What do you lead with?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is like out of the gate? What do people see? And here's the cool thing. You don't need to be a coach to take this quiz. It's free. It's 5 minutes long. Maybe.
It's in the show notes.
It's in the show
You
notes.
can take it right now before you get started.
But if you just like happen to form other human persons, this is kind of the way that you do it. So we encourage you to go take it.
All right. Stick around. We'll see you in the podcast.
Welcome back.
Hey, Aaron. Your hair looks great today.
Thanks.
I love the color that you've picked too. Just
So I'm not
green.
blending into the background.
Yeah, you're not like a floating,
Head.
very pale Irish head here. I love your beautiful pale Irish head though.
Yes.
Awesome.
Would you still love it if it was just a head?
It was just a floating head like Ted Williams. Okay. Yeah. Hey folks, today we're announcing that we've got a brand new quiz that's out there. It's what type of coach are you? Now, if you're a coach, you're probably like, yeah, I want to take it. But if you wouldn't consider yourself a coach, it's like, why would I take something like that? Well, I think it's a great awareness tool because we're always showing up giving some sort of advice or guidance or coming alongside somebody at different periods of our life, whether we're a parent or we're a teacher or coach on the athletic field, somebody in ministry. So it's a great little self-awareness tool that we put together. It was a ton of fun to put together, and seeing the results come in where people just kind of saying, hey, I'm the visionary, I'm the healer, like stuff like that, and just kind of claiming it. It's been kind of fun to watch that come through.
Yeah. No, I love it. I mean, I think it's so often, I've been in the coaching world for a while now, and you can really compare yourself to other people.
Yeah.
And what I started to find was, I like this coach, and I'm not really sure why I like them, but it was kind of resonant with my style. And so starting to develop these styles, these like coaching types, I guess. And I wasn't the first one. There are like other coaching type quizzes out there, but we created this one from a combination of what we've seen, even people on our team.
People that we've trained. But also taking in some aspects of the temperaments. Right.
And even some of the Clifton strengths.
Yes.
So we kind of see some of these themes happening. And so we created these 5 different types of coaching.
And it's funny, as we go through, we're going to unpack each one of these 5 different types of coaching. But you may have thoughts about a certain style of coaching. I know that I even have some thoughts about certain types of coaches and coaching that I don't necessarily gravitate towards personally, but at the same time, I can see a value in it. It's just not necessarily the way that I desire to come alongside somebody or abide with somebody for a period of their journey or at a certain period of their journey. So it's great what I like about this is it helps me to kind of niche down a little bit more and understand where my contribution is on somebody's journey path, because I'm in on this and it gives myself permission to kind of not be there for like the person for everybody.
Yes.
And forever, right? I love just being able to niche down and kind of stay in a lane.
But also it like allows you to network because like with other coaches, because they're like, okay, well, I'm this style and I think my client might need this style. And I know somebody who is this type of coach. It's not like this scientific, like really deeply academic assessment, but I think it's really fascinating to see everybody answering these questions. I'm like, this makes total sense to me. Yeah. Now everything kind of starts to paint a picture for me. And certainly if you are a coach, we're all kind of like a little bit of each of these, but really what the test kind of assesses is what you lead with, like what you're out of the gate with. And it doesn't mean that you can't grow in the other areas, certainly. Anything else? Yeah. Anything else about the test? I'm trying to think.
Well, I mean, when you get your results, it actually gives you kind of a certain score in each of the 5 categories that we have. And so...
And descriptions.
And that's what I love about it too, is you get the descriptions, and so you can kind of go through and say, okay, this really resonates, this not so much. And you can just see how you're kind of a different amalgamation of all these different styles of coaching. And I think it really paints a picture of just how nuanced we are. Similar to the way that Strengths does this, and you never find, like Clifton Strengths, you're never going to find somebody, statistically speaking, you're not going to find somebody with the same top 10 in the same order, right?
I think it's like 1 in like 3 million or something.
No, it's 1 in 33, almost 34 million to have somebody with the same top 5 in the same order. Now, same top 10 is just like you're getting statistically impossible for that. Or same 34, and forget it. So there's just this fearfully, wonderfully made, even as a coach, that, like you said, Aaron, you start to recognize and appreciate, okay, I coach this specific way, and there's somebody out there that desires to receive coaching in my specific way. And if they don't, you know what? That's great. There's another coach for them as well, and I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know?
Can we talk a little bit about Coach Week?
We can, yeah. I mean, like, and also, like, folks, you haven't taken this test before we get into Coach Week.
Yes, thank you.
It's in the show notes. Maybe you want to pause this because you might have a greater appreciation for this podcast when you've actually taken the test and discovered. It's like takes not even 5 minutes to go through this thing. 25 questions.
Really
you get your
easy.
results instantly.
Yes.
Okay, so those are in the show notes. I promise. They're in the show notes for this, or at metanoia.catholic on our Instagram, LinkedIn, Linktree, excuse me. You can find it there as well. Okay. But yeah, this is actually day one. Aaron said Catholic Coach Week we got coming up in November 7th through the 11th.
Yes.
This is day one.
Yeah.
What type of coach are you?
Yep. We're going to go deeper into that. We're going to kind of do some of the temperament work too, as well, because there's actually one of our classes in one of our trainings is all about temperaments, like how to coach somebody with a specific temperament, but also considering your own temperament. It shows up in your style. Like there's no way you can kind of get around it. And so we're going to be taking this assessment on a deeper level, but also diving into the temperaments on that first day. Catholic Coach Week, guys. I can't even tell you the amount of value you are going to get for $19, by the way. 5 days in a row, a half hour of teaching and like theory and concept and tips and ways to coach yourself, followed by an hour of coaching. I'm adding up the numbers in my head and like even what that would actually normally charge, like cost for somebody to get 5 hours of coaching. And it's around $500.
$19.
But you get it for $19. And not only that, you get to try on Catholic coaching. If you're like, I want to know what this whole Catholic coaching thing is. Like, I want to know if this is something that's for me. Maybe you already are a coach in a secular world and you're like, this is malarkey. I want to like bring my faith into it.
Just want to ground it, yeah.
This is like just a great way to just try it out. Like you're going shopping for your clothes. Most of the men might not like this analogy, but I know
Maybe
women will.
jeans.
If you're trying on, like we're just trying it on. We're seeing like, does this look good? Does this fit me? Right? So that's actually what the goal is for Catholic Coach Week.
Maybe it's
Come check it out.
A hat or sunglasses for the
Yes.
men out there. Okay, so getting into the podcast now. Thank you for that, Aaron.
Yeah.
We're going to dive into these 5 different types. What we're going to do is we're going to share a little bit of a description on each one of them. We're going to share also what is the primary drive, the motivation for the coach with that type, but then also what is the ROI, that return on investment for a client working with a coach like that? What are they going to get from the coach in that particular type? Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. So we got 5. What are the 5, Aaron?
We have the visionary, the guide, the commander, the healer, and the encourager.
So some of you off the top of your head, you might be thinking like, oh yeah, I can already see like how
What
I'm showing up on one of those things. So let's jump right into it.
Yeah. All right.
right.
So you're first, actually, Matt, because this was your number 1.
All right. Let's
Would
do
you
this.
score 20 on this?
I got 19 out of 20 on it. And considering that like I helped write the questions and stuff like that, it's just like, okay, I had to like suspend a little bit of like, I know this question pairs with this type and everything. And it's like, I want to be this type here, but I did the best I could to just be unbiased and answer, right? But I was like at 19 out of 20, I scored for visionary. And then I ended up getting, 10 out of 10 for, I think it was a 3-way tie for the guide, commander, and healer, and then encourager was like a 6 or something like that. So like
Interesting.
at the bottom here. So But the visionary, the descriptor words that we have for this are curious, clarifying, inspiring, and futuristic. What I love about being a visionary coach is helping clients that have either an unclear idea of what their goal is or have no idea what their goal is, or clients that just have that very atrophied dream muscle that just, it's a foreign thing for them, or just an uncomfortable or unfamiliar thing for them to be even looking far out. And what I love about this is, I fall back on John Paul II's personalism, and he talks about the person being self-deterministic. Okay. And he says he's self-deterministic within boundaries, right? I can't say I'm going to be a woman tomorrow, right? Like, no, there's boundaries with this, but you can use that freedom to kind of determine where you're going to go. Like you say, I'm going to be a doctor. Well, you can use your God-given freedom to go to medical school and become a doctor. So, but you have to have really this image in your mind first of life as a doctor that is going to be the image that you're seeking to conform your life to, right? And when we have an unclear image, it translates often to unclear lack of clarity in how I live today, right? What do I do? How do I choose things today? Where do I give my yes and where do I give my no? Because it's not necessarily being held up to this image, this clear goal of, is this decision moving me towards this goal or moving me away from this goal or distracting me from this goal? So I love helping people as a visionary coach find clarity on their goals and where they're going. Because what I find is it takes a lot of the confusion away of the present moment of how do I live my life.
Yeah, it makes me think of the two quotes. One of the quotes is by St. John Paul II, become who you are.
Yes.
And when you become who God created you to be, you will set the world on fire.
St. Catherine Siena.
Yes. And I think of so many people, like you were talking about that atrophied dream muscle. I think so many people, I don't want to diagnose people, but are just like sad. I don't want to use the word depressed because I feel like that's diagnostic, but like are just sad with their life because nobody's asked them these questions like that you would probably ask them from like our unique call to sanctity, right? That workshop. But also just like nobody's actually given them permission to dream. Not like we need it, but sometimes you do.
Sometimes you do. Sometimes you feel like you don't have permission to dream, right? And I think even what you said, some people feel sad, right? Well, this is even Viktor Frankl. He talks about this, man's search for meaning. He talks about the neurotic triad of when people aren't doing things meaningful with their lives, they feel depressed, they feel angry, or they're prone to addiction. And I get, like, it makes sense. I would be angry too if I realized that I wasn't doing what I was meant to be doing with my life or had this sensation. I'd also feel sad resting in that reality that I'm not doing what I'm meant to be doing with my life. It's an appropriate emotion to feel. Or I might feel prone to addiction. I need to distract myself from this feeling of anger or sadness that I'm not doing what I'm meant to be doing with my life. And the reality of it is some people will fall into the lie that their life doesn't have a purpose or that it doesn't have a meaning. And that's just a liar, pants on fire from the enemy, right? Nowhere else. That is from the enemy. Because the reality of it is that each one of us has a personal, unique vocation. All right. When I say that, discerning a personal vocation is not just discerning your state in life. I stand on the shoulders of Josh Miller and his other co-author in that book, Unrepeatable, where they talk about personal vocation, expanding the definition of this of what a vocation is. Like not like they're changing it, but they're just calling attention to it's far more than what we've reduced it down to is just state in life, considering your state in life.
Even
Every
though
single person.
That includes it.
Right.
Yes, but then a more unique call.
Well, it's lived in the state in life,
yes.
Right? It's lived out in that state in life, but it's not confined only to state in life. Vocation is first what you are rather than something that you do or a state in life. It's lived in a state in life, and it has an outward thrust, missionary thrust, but it's really the fulfillment of John Paul II, become who you are. Another way of saying it is become that personal vocation, that unique expression of God.
Yeah, it makes me think of orders. Like you go and become a priest, right? That's like a state in life, right? You take the vows and become a priest. There's a little fly in here. And
Shoe fly.
but then it's like you join the Dominican order who like, and their unique charism is like preaching and teaching, right? So it's kind of, we're getting a little bit more nuance there. And then it's like, okay, but how is your particular way of preaching and teaching come through? And that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
So it's just a very streamlined and like narrow, like you're looking through a microscope. What is this person's unique call within the state in life that they're doing?
And even going deeper than that, what's not just their unique call, but their unique name. And so when we hear in scriptures that God calls each of us by name, that name is not just speaking to Aaron or Matt, like the name that we know, but there's a name that is just so deep, that is whispered into our hearts by God, that only we are capable of knowing it, but it's even something that we are incapable in our human finiteness of expressing the fullness of what it is. And I think of T.S. Eliot's poem, The Naming of Cats. He talks about cats having these 3 names, the last of them being this name that only the cat knows. And when you see the cat just sitting there in contemplation, really what he's reflecting on is his ineffable name, but T.S. Eliot. But check it out, The Naming of Cats. Each one of us has that name that if we can't even utter it, because it would be a disservice to the fullness of what it truly is. And that's what I love helping people to discover, and I get to kind of see glimpses of it as a visionary coach.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What's your motivation?
My motivation is to help the client find clarity to a goal.
What's the client's return on investment?
They get clarity to their goal, and they get clarity on how to act today to move towards that goal.
So like a plan for the goal. And
Yeah.
I think also permission to dream.
Yeah.
And like even just learning that skill of dreaming and like bringing your goals to the altar. Like
Amen. Yeah,
bringing
exercise
your
3.
dreams and your desires to, and how to do that with the Lord.
Cool. Aaron, the guide. What do you got?
The guide. This person is patient, wise, experienced, and a teacher. I want you guys to think of a tour guide. All right. So you're like, I'm paying for this tour guide to bring me around in Rome. And they don't know how to teach you. They don't know any stories about anything. They're like, and here's the cathedral. Here's the Vatican.
I can't remember the name of this thing, but it's a
Come
big
over
circle
here.
where lions used to eat people.
Yes. Yeah. Here's, yes. I don't even know what, the Pantheon, right?
I was talking about the Colosseum.
Oh,
go ahead.
The Colosseum. Like, can you imagine a guide doing that? No, like you'd be like,
You're fired.
This person's fired, and I'd much rather that drunk guide. Remember that led us around Rome?
Oh gosh, yes.
She
That
was awesome,
funny.
but she was very drunk. So anyway, this is the guide. The guide is not drunk. The guide is patient, wise, teacher. They are like, here, come on this journey. I've taken people on this journey, but they're also very adaptable. So like if something new comes in the way, it's like, that's fine. We're cool. Like I think of just somebody who's phlegmatic, who's not really attached necessarily to the results or to the person achieving their goal. They think they're like, no, we are going to become aware on the way. Like we're going to learn on the way. And so the guide spends a lot of time teaching in session, because they really believe that that old adage where it's like, you can teach, you can fish for a man, or you can teach a man how to fish. And so the guide really kind of lives by that motto. Like I don't want people to keep coming back to me. I want them to learn these skills and apply them themselves. And they're really focused on developing the intellect of their clients.
Yeah, and they often have a very high subject matter expertise in an area as well, because they're constantly learning. Like they're never just finished learning. They're constantly just, I think, high input for strategic thinking skills for Clifton strengths as being part of it. We're just they are a wealth of resources to be able to share with the client.
Yeah, their big thing is awareness though. It's like, okay, let's just stop and take a look at like the path that we've already been on. Let's like look around. Like we're not rushing to anything. Like they don't like it when people try to rush to their goals because they're like transformation isn't going to happen here. Like if we're rushing to our goals, like you're not acquiring the skills, the mental skills to actually get through this the next time it shows up.
So mindset management is kind of those skills that are pretty big with the guide.
Yep. I am guide second. Actually, that's my second highest. And so I can really relate to this one. As I was like writing this out, I was like, yeah, I think I'm a guide.
You had an image, you had a person in mind for all of these as you were writing the descriptions out.
Person and character,
Yes.
right? I'm certainly not equating myself to Gandalf the Gray or Gandalf the White, depending on which one you watch and prefer.
Thanks, nerd.
But I do think of the guide, like they're the person who's like, everybody kind of is like, hey, are we there yet? Like they're just kind of like pointing the way, but they're also like, hey, you are here right now. Let's like be aware of where we're at right now too. So the motivations of the guide are the awareness of the journey and developing the client's God-given tools, specifically the client's intellect. Big teachers, big on teaching.
Awesome. What's their motivation? Is that it?
That's the motivation, but then their ROI, like the client's ROI, is they become clear on where they're at in their journey. They become way more self-aware. I think of even just human formation and that self-awareness being that first step. Before you can become self-possessed and then self-gift, you have to become self-aware. And so even if somebody's like looking for a coach, this might be a good first coach for you, like a guide, somebody who's like teaching you how to become, I just spit on my somebody who's helping you kind of become aware of where you're at on the journey and what thoughts you're thinking and just kind of how we work interiorly. Yeah. And then from that place, the guide teaches the client their own limitations and their own capabilities.
Yeah.
I mean, the client probably already knows it, but they just bring it to their awareness.
Yeah, bring it to the awareness. Awesome. All right. We
On
good
to
on
the
guide?
next.
On to the next. The commander. All right. Descriptor words here for commander. Decisive, influential, direct, and extreme ownership. This is like my number 2. All right. I got a 3-way tie, but I would say this is, looking at this, I find myself defaulting this quite a bit. When I think of the commander, I immediately think of coaches like Jocko, right, that are out there. These Navy SEALs, I think of Dom Razzo also, but he's like crush everything, that are just like very high energy and very much we're doing this. You've made the commitment. I'm committed with you. We're not accepting any sort of excuses at this point. We're moving forward. Oh, you don't feel like moving forward? We're moving forward. I'm going to hold you accountable. The commander is the coach that shows up with that tough love, but very well timed tough love. Right? We can go to extreme ends where they're just knife handing everybody and barking like a drill sergeant. But the commander has like a really good balance, or at least the mature commander has that really good balance of being able to know when to turn the heat up, that in a way that it is really beneficial to the client. They help the client to move forward, certainly with clarity of goals, not quite like the visionary, but also by calling attention to the true discomfort of the status quo. All right, so the commander is going to help the client to realize how uncomfortable their current state is, so that they are equally running away from that as they are running towards their new goal, right? Because they see discomfort as something that is a teacher of itself, something that could, we don't want to run away from, or
like
just
a currency.
So like the commander has very little tolerance for the vice of effeminacy, that desire to indulge in
Or
kind of
sloth.
sense pleasures, or
Sloth.
asadia, sloth, right? Of just kind of like, I'm going to take, we're moving, right? There's a lot of energy. And I love how a commander can really show up to a client who is struggling with indecisiveness and insert some decisiveness into this is where we're going. We're going to fail forward. Even if we're not fully sure, we're going to decide, we're going to move forward. We'll fail quickly, and then we'll grow. We'll learn from it through failure.
Yeah.
Fail forward.
Yeah. And also, like, just an extra point here, like, the commander can be feminine too. And you can do it in a beautiful way. Because I'm thinking of like Jocko, but like, it's like, I mean, you can come up and really, yeah, like you can fight for your client. And that's what I think the commander's really doing. Like a mature commander, like you're saying, like you're fighting for the potentiality of your client. You see, and you're like, I know you can do better. And I love you. And nobody else is going to do this for you besides me. I'm going to kick you in. Maybe another commander coach will do this for you, but like, I'm going to kick you in the butt and I'm going to show you what you can do. Come on, you can do it.
It was funny when we put it out to our channel with all of our coaches that we've been training and everybody took it. There were a few women that ended up with this. Tiffany Haller, she's commander. Abby Dufresne on our team, one of our resident coaches, she's a commander. Lisa Canning. Lisa Canning showed up as commander. And I remember reaching out to Lisa after that and being like, I actually had, when we were putting the quiz together, I had encourager in mind for you. And she was like, you have not seen me on my group coaching calls. We plow through stuff. There is no excuses allowed on my group coaching calls.
Yeah. And what I love about these types, they also show you your frustrations as a coach, right? You're like, I really hate it when somebody's just like indecisive. But maybe what would be helpful is for you to be like, well, like you could get curious about what's going on in their head, why they're getting stuck there. Or you could be like, hey, I know somebody who you could probably go and maybe have a couple sessions with, and they may kind of get you a little bit unstuck there.
Sure.
And so we can kind of plow through this with gusto.
Yeah. And it's also knowing when to bring forward and summon forward some of these different coach types. So I can tell you today that today I was on a coaching call and really the healer needed to come forward. And the healer was really at the forefront. And it's kind of like one of my tertiary, items there, but it was just like the healer really came forward and we stayed there for a bit. And so like these are all just like in Clifton Strengths, all of those talents are accessible to us. It just has to do with how naturally we move into them. Where do we feel inclined? What's our dominant one that we feel inclined to step into?
What do we like doing too?
Yeah, where do we experience the greatest fruits in our clients' lives and our feedback from our clients here as well? Where do they experience the greatest fruits?
What are the motivations of the commander?
The commander wants to be decisive, all right? Wants to be really decisive and have that yes mean yes and that no mean no for people because they just know the value of that yes and that no in the given moment. It's either moving them towards the goal or it's not. And so they want to help the client develop that discipline of committing to those things and recommitting to those things to which they give their yes.
I think of that quote, with action comes clarity.
Yes.
And that is like so the commander quote. Like, no, we will find clarity with action. You will not find clarity sitting on your hands and doing nothing.
Yeah. I remember Ryan Donovan, or my first coach, he gave that. And I was wow. Like, and
so helpful.
I was so stuck waiting. My melancholic was just wanting to have this perfect plan before I could move forward. And
you never do that anymore. So weird. I'm just kidding.
I'm
kidding.
Can't kick the melancholic completely out.
No, you can't.
And then the client's ROI. If you feel stuck, the commander's going to get you unstuck. The commander will help you get unstuck and get moving at that point.
And at least making a decision.
Yeah.
Right.
But it may be getting you unstuck by helping you to realize how uncomfortable the status quo actually is.
Yeah. Amen.
Cool.
All right. The healer is next. These people are deep, tender, unafraid, unassuming, and compassionate. This one, like they're not really. So the people who are in this category have vacillated back and forth. Should I be a coach or should I be a counselor? right? It's
Probably,
there
yeah.
is that question that's going on, like, either one, which one should I do? Which one should I be? And the people who are coaches who are in this healing, I bet you if we gave this test to counselors, they would all probably score number one in healer.
Yeah, Mark Dufresne, he scored
Yep.
high in healer. I mean, he's got a background in counseling.
Yes.
Megan Mohan,
Considered going to become a counselor.
yeah,
Yes.
but she's done a lot of formation over at John Paul II Center for Healing.
Yep,
Right,
yep.
with Dr. Bob Schutz, and
Yes.
then also Unbound Ministry as well.
People, yeah, anybody who's kind of in inner healing too, this is like probably your go-to. But obviously those descriptor words, the ones that really that stick out to me are unafraid and unassuming. And I think of somebody who is not afraid to go deep. Perhaps, like, let's say you scored high in healing and you're just like in an elevator somewhere and somebody just decides to share their whole life with you, like all of the hurts and all of it with you in that 5-minute time frame.
Here you go.
Yeah, you
It's a
might
tall
be
building.
high in healer, like if that's your story. But I also like this unassuming quality. Everybody, like, they know when to kind of be quiet and just to listen. And there's a brilliance there. And I don't know if this is intuitive or not, but they will just be quiet and people will just keep talking. But all right, consider this. Consider you're sitting across from somebody who is quiet and making a really judgmental face, like
Stank face.
that suspicious eyes, like, you're probably not going to keep talking, but they have this unassuming quality about them, this very like judgment free quality about them that people will just open up to them. It's just, that is,
They create a very safe space.
yes. Yeah. And unafraid too. They're not really bogged down by the heaviness. The coaches though, so one of the big distinctions between coaching and counseling is coaches are like, we have a goal here, right? Like we have a goal that we are working towards. We are working in the here and now and in the future. And that is where we're going. We are in movement. So where does the healer come in? The healer comes in when somebody just keeps getting stuck, like they keep getting blocked. This would be a great person for maybe the commander to send somebody to. If it's like, I just can't get past this thing. All right, so there's probably something deeper that needs to kind of be brought up. And I know who to send you to. The one who's not afraid to go there. And the one who's not afraid to sit there and pray with you. And
Just has the gifts. Like God's grace operates them in a very special way in these types of moments, these types of issues.
Yep. It's the one who, and I think we've used this visual before, where you're like, let's say somebody's like in chains and they're also in jail and the door is wide open and the chains are kind of falling off and you just kind of need to pull it and like it just drops to the floor. The healer is somebody who goes, hey, do you know this door is open? And like, come on, step out of that like pile of shackles. Let's go. That's the healer. That is like, they're not standing in the place of the Lord. The Lord is the one who undid the chains, right? But they're the one who goes, hey, let's go. Let's kind of start to take a step forward here. Let's leave this place.
Yeah, I think of the healer also, like another analogy is like, okay, so we got goals, we're moving towards these goals, but we hit these obstacles. And some of those obstacles are just, where some coaching types, maybe the commander might want to take strategies to go around those things or bypass things. The healer's just like, no, we're gonna pause. We're gonna camp out right here, and we are going to negotiate this obstacle before we move on to the other objective. I remember there being this story of General Mattis, where he was moving. He was a general at the time in Iraq, and he was moving to some position for, I don't know, some sort of command meeting or something like that. And his convoy came under an ambush. And really, it wasn't like one of those ambushes where he really needed to like stay there and fight. Could have just pushed through and gone on with his mission. But he's like, no, we stopped. And he got out and they commanded and they took that position and then they got back in their vehicles and they moved on. And his rationale behind it was just like, no, this is what we do. Like we're Marines. We take the fight to the enemy. And I think the healer, in a very similar way, when they see a stronghold, an enemy stronghold in the person's life, they say, no, we're not going to make a place to accommodate this. We're going to deal with this right here.
Yeah.
Right. This is like the goal. The goal is serving its purpose. It is helping us to bring to light the fact that there's an ambush that's waiting for us here. We're going to negotiate this ambush. We're going to deal with it, neutralize it. And now we don't have to worry about it in the future. Now we go forward, and you're growing at that point. The growth is coming through the healing that's taking place.
Yeah.
Versus the advancement towards the goal. But it's kind of one and the same too.
And I'm thinking about this in like the terms of mindset coaching and a lot of those strongholds that you were saying before, which is really like the motivation behind this, the healer. It's like to help their clients stop believing lies, get out of those strongholds, maybe even like let go of unforgiveness, kind of these things that are strongholds, that are blocks to movement forward. And that's where they come in. There is a strategy behind it. It's not, we don't just sit here though. We don't just sit in the healing phase. Why are people healed? To go on mission, to actually go and enter into a relationship with the Lord fully. Like, so the best way that they possibly can. Healing is not an end in of itself. It's a means to keep going, to actually move forward. So
yeah.
The client's ROI is that they will feel safe. Like they will feel safe to share with this person, and that they will get past these lies, get past these strongholds. Yeah.
Love it. All right, Aaron, finally, the encourager. You're number one.
Yes.
Take the lead on this one, please.
This is me.
Supportive, excited, motivator, loyal, familiar.
Yeah. This is kind of like the encourager kind of gives a little bit of a cheerleader friend vibe. You're kind of like, oh, I feel like I can share a lot with you, similar to the healer, but like because I feel familiar with you, because I feel like you're also not judging me, and like there's this sense of like childlike excitement and energy around in your session. So instead of it being very like heavy, it's light. There's
a levity.
Yes, there's probably some like chuckling, some laughing even. But there is a strategy behind the encourager. Okay. It's not just like you're paying somebody to be your friend.
Or
right?
paying somebody to be Pollyanna-ish with you. Right.
Yes.
But they use that positivity strategically. They use emotion strategically here.
Yes.
And they really are masters of managing emotional fuel and helping the client to really tap into their emotional fuel.
I would also say they're masters of, and also healers too this way, but masters of reading emotions in other people. Like they kind of, obviously this would be a mature encourager, but like they can almost instantly know, all right, this person, something's going on here. Like there's a block, there's an emotional block here. And so they do a lot of emotional work with people, but also they know that, like Matt was saying, that emotional fuel, they know that, keep in mind, coach, there is action, there is movement, there is a goal, there is an aim. So they know that emotion inclines us to act or not to act. So that's what Matt was saying with the strategy. Like there is a strategy behind this. And it's like, I know that if we find some type of more of a positive emotion, that will get you moving.
Yeah. So we might see Clifton's strengths of positivity showing up in the encourager, of connectedness,
activator probably.
And then empathy as well. So those are kind of those relationship strengths. And then we see the influencer ones showing up, that activator, that maximizer that's there. That are just, again, turning the emotional temperature up in the room, but giving clarity of purpose. There's a guidance to it, right? So it's not just wild emotion, but it's focused emotion because it has that goal, and we're being very intentional about the thoughts that we are choosing to create the emotion that we need to pursue the goal that we have set.
Yeah. I think of the carrot and the stick.
Carrot and the stick analogy. Yeah, there are a lot more. So the carrot is, again, it's like, okay, you're moving a horse. You can either dangle a carrot in front of the horse on a stick, or you can use a stick to just whap the horse on the butt, right?
Yeah.
So it's positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. The encourager is like the mindset more of like positive reinforcement is what we're going to be focusing on. Mm-hmm. I know that if we can identify those things, we don't necessarily need to worry about the negative reinforcement here. And again, that's kind of that positivity showing up again in Clifton Strengths, which is often like, I want positivity as much as I want to avoid the negative. Yeah. We don't need to use the negative, right? Yep. And so if you're somebody that really enjoys to have like that positive reinforcing coach that's there, that encourager may be a good fit for you, right? And you're somebody that I could see them being a good coach for sanguines that are here, but even like phlegmatics that may be a little bit emotionally deadpan, so to speak. They can really help them tap into those emotions.
That's another thing is they're kind of like, they really like finding out what motivates people because they know that that's going to be their fuel. Like, you know, like you're not going to go fill up your car with some wrong fuel. You know, like it's not going to move.
You'll be full, but it's not going to move.
Yeah. Like what if you filled up with orange juice?
Are we in a cartoon?
Yeah. It won't work. And so encouragers, all the encouragers out there, unite. You guys are all cheering, going, yeah, that's me. Like, this doesn't work. This is not working over here. So how do we make this work so we can keep going?
Yeah.
Yep. So, you know, you might be an encourager when your clients walk away and go, I'm actually excited now to move towards my goal. And you're like, amen. Job well done.
So that motivation, did we hit the motivation on that?
No, the motivation is to find and remind the clients what motivates and excites them, because this will lead to inevitable growth, but also it will be kind of their ace in their back pocket during arduous times. It's like, how do we reach in there and go, all right, why are we doing this again? What's your compelling reason?
My tank feels empty. All right, we know how to fill it.
And the client's ROI here is they will feel encouraged. They'll feel supported. They will feel motivated. And they will understand what motivates them and have these skills to go, use on themselves actually moving forward. So
I love it. Folks, like, again, take this quiz. Like, if you're a little bit curious about what your coach type is, take this quiz and just kind of see how it see how you fall.
If you form any human person, you could take this quiz. You don't have to be a coach, but like.
And what I really like about it is I find myself now kind of intentionally showing up in these different types. You know, during a coaching session, it's like, okay, I can recognize now that the commander is really needed here by the client. And so we're going to move forward here with the commander. Okay, you can see what the healer is needed here. Or, and it also, even like on the front end, when I'm talking to people or I'm talking to prospective new clients, I can describe how I coach with a greater clarity, I found.
Yes.
To be able to say, okay, just so you know, like, because to set a proper expectation here, when we work together, this is what you get from me. And this is the approach that I take. And
it's your position.
It works. So like, if that's not going to work for you, then this is just not going to be a fit, and that's okay. Right. But if this is what you're looking for, then I also feel like a greater sense of purpose or excitement of saying, okay, like let's work together. This is working. Let's do this. You see it? Let's do it. Okay, let's go. And that momentum, that excitement kind of, I see it just carries on through the relationship. Yeah.
So go check it out. Check out Coach Week too, Catholic Coach Week. Come join us. It'd be so fun to meet you. But also take this quiz, and just because it's fun, really. Yeah. That's my encourager coming out. Just let's have fun with it. Okay.
Encourager sanguine.
Yes.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for sticking with us in the Catholic Coaching Podcast. If you like what you heard,
please like and subscribe, and we'll see you again.